Thank you. Next question is to Ms. Butt first. Do you believe all Tennesseans have a right to affordable health care? If so, what should be government's role in ensuring this to happen?
Yes, I do believe that every person should have a right to affordable health care. Personally, when my husband and I married, we have been paying our own health insurance from the time we got married. We have watched people who could have health insurance like us, who may have bought new cars every year, may have bought big screen TVs, may have done lots of things that we didn't get to do because we were paying for our insurance. I think people have to make wise choices about their insurance. I don't want a bureaucrat standing between me and my doctor. I can tell you that right now. I've seen the end-of-life surveys that they have for the veterans, and the veterans have to answer certain questions, and if you answer a certain question a certain way, then at the end of your life, they'll take that into consideration, or if you get a little too sick, they'll take that into consideration. I do not want a bureaucracy standing between me and my insurance. So how are we going to fix that? We're going to open up competition across the state lines. It's just like selling a car or anything else. You can get better rates and you can get better coverage when you open up the competition. And that's what we need to do in the state of Tennessee.
Thank you. Ty?
Do I go ahead and repeat the question, make sure I'm right?
Do you believe all Tennesseans have a right to affordable health care? If so, what should be government's role in ensuring this happens?
I sure do. And I think the one thing we have to do is make sure we manage just like we did with TennCare. You know, TennCare came in to be a good system under Governor McWhorter. But one of the problems we had was people that were on TennCare who had insurance through their employer. Well, that drains the system quickly. And one thing we have to do is really manage who's on TennCare. And there's been some tough cuts that Governor Bredesen's made over his last 7 years. Wasn't popular cuts, but they had to be made because it was affecting your tax dollars. But I think also important is it's just like when you have a job. You should have to pass a drug test, and if you're unemployed, you should be filing for employment somewhere, at least trying. And that's something that state government and federal too, we can all do better at, is making sure that people that are on TennCare or on any type of health care program are doing what they're supposed to do. And that gets back to making sure that they're held accountable. But the last thing I want to see is somebody from Mississippi coming into Tennessee getting TennCare off your tax dollars. That's not fair to you. And anytime you have a problem, you have to get back to seeing how the system's managed. And when FirstCare first started, it was managed with loopholes where people were coming across the state or people were getting on it. They could get insurance through their employer. If I can get insurance through the city of Columbia as a firefighter, I don't need to be on TennCare.
Thank you. Sure.
I personally want people to have some sort of investment in their own insurance, no matter how much it is, if it's $5 a week, if it's $10 a week. But having worked at a counseling center where we made appointments, and if you canceled your appointment within 24 hours, that was fine. But if you didn't cancel within 24 hours, then you had to pay the $80 or $90 counseling fee. But what happened is when people were on TennCare or their insurance was given to them by someone, or even if they were paid by a charity, do you know who the people were who would call 10 minutes before it was time for that counseling center to start? It would be the person who had no invested interest in that appointment. And I believe that people need to have some invested interest in their own health care.
Thank you. Ty, any rebuttal?
Well, health care continues to be a hot topic, an issue that affects all types of government. But I can tell you on my watch that first and foremost, we've got to make sure we manage your tax dollars properly and dealing with TennCare. That's what we deal with, is TennCare and state government. And like I said earlier, those people need to be able to pass a drug test. They need to be filing for employment if they're not employed. And if they have a employment with a provider that provides insurance, they do not need to be on TennCare on your tax dollars.
Thank you. Next question. Ty, you will answer first. Tennessee's infant mortality rate of 8.7 deaths per 1,000 live births is far higher than the national average. What would you do to reduce infant mortality?
Well, we've got to continue to pass tougher legislation, and we had several bills that I supported, and I'm proud to have the endorsement of the Tennessee Right to Life by being a pro-life candidate. But these are issues that come through the Health Committee, and they're tough issues, but we'll continue to manage them. But I will take the guidance of key people like Tennessee Right to Life to make those decisions. They're tough decisions, but they're decisions that have to be made by people that watch that subject on an everyday basis. But as a pro-life candidate, the last thing I want to see is abortion skyrocket or more people be able to have an abortion. Like I said, I'm endorsed by Tennessee Right to Life, and I have a 100% A-plus voting record.
Thank you. And I also have been to Talk with Right to Life. I'm a member of the Maury County Right to Life. I have gone across the United States teaching women for several years that life begins at conception. And I am a pro-life candidate from conception all the way up until the elderly, because there will come a time in this country when we will also have to deal with the issue of euthanasia. There are places now who have assisted suicide, and there are cities and there are states who will pay for that assisted suicide for an elderly person whom they don't want to pay for their treatments or something like that. So these are things that for years in advance we're going to have to look at. But I am a pro-life candidate from conception. I believe life begins at conception, and I believe it's not and people will say, well, if there's rape, incest, or life of the mother, yes, those decisions have to be made. But the truth is, at conception, life begins. So then we have to know that that's when life begins. And when we have to deal with the lives of our elderly, we're also going to have to take all of this into consideration. And I will be pro-life from conception to the elderly.
Thank you.
Again, I'm proud to have that endorsement. We both filled out a questionnaire, but my voting record speaks for itself, having an A-plus rating. But I think it's also important, real quick, to say that having that rating goes back to having good pastors and ministers who have not only prayed for me, but have been there for me when I've went to talk to them about those issues. And they help guide me on those decisions. I don't make those decisions based off just what Ty thinks, but what the people at my church and the people in the community of all denominations think. But again, I'm proud, and I think it stands firm that I have the endorsement, and I am a pro-life candidate.
Everybody?
And that endorsement comes when you get to have a record of voting.
Thank you. Moving right along. Sheila, you will answer the question first. Arizona lawmakers recently passed a controversial immigration bill that requires police to check the immigration status of people suspected of being in the country illegally. Would you support similar legislation? Get my tongue untied. Would you support similar legislation for Tennessee?
Well, first of all, that's really not a new law. That is a law that has not been enforced by the federal government. So we really can't say that that is a new law. And that law requires you to check that status, or says you may check that status if that person is doing something illegally. Now, personally, I get checked if I am doing something illegally. They want to see my driver's license. They want to see and that is something that I think is fair to check people if they're doing something illegal, of course. Would I want to have a law like Arizona? Let me share with you, if you will go and study the state of Missouri, you will find out that they don't have much of an illegal immigration problem. Do you know why? Because several years ago, they decided to crack down on employers who were hiring illegal immigrants. They have something very similar to a 3 strikes you're out program. The first time, they get a slap on the hand. The second time, they get a fine. The third time, you're out of business. So they do not have an illegal immigration problem. Would I stand up for something like that in the state of Tennessee? Yes, I would. And I would stand against anything that came down from the Obama-Pelosi administration that says that the state of Tennessee cannot stand up against illegal immigration. Many states are fighting that, and we hope to join them because we want to make sure that we're not draining our system. Do I have an idea for helping the illegal immigration problem? Yes, I do. I believe we should have 2 paths here in the United States. You should have a path where we might hire personnel agencies, private personnel agencies, let people come here to work and go home when they get ready to go home and they've made the money they want to make after several years. Then there should be the path for citizenship. I guarantee you that every illegal immigrant in the state of Tennessee does not necessarily want to be a citizen. They want to come here and work. And citizenship is too precious to bestow on somebody who has evaded the law for 15 years, so we make them a citizen of the United States of America.
Thank you. Thank you. Ty?
On illegal immigration, I can't control what's going on in Washington, but I can control what's going on in the state of Tennessee. And to start out, I will say that I don't really like the word illegal because I think we're all God's children. And I think that the right word
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think the right word to use with that, I think the right word to use with
ladies and
that,
gentlemen, excuse me, Top. Please hold your applause and your comments. This is a debate between our candidates.
but
We all have an opinion, so
we all are God's children, but the right word is undocumented citizen. If you're going to come to America and live in this state or live in any state in America, you got to follow the laws of the land and the Constitution. If you're here illegal, you need to go back and follow the process like if I was going to Germany or somewhere else wanting to live. We have laws, and we have to enforce those laws. But yes, we need help from the federal government if we're going to enforce them, because states are burdened now. They get shipped back to wherever they're deported, and next thing you know, they're back here in 3 weeks. But you have to follow the laws of Tennessee if you're going to live here, and you have to be a U.S. and American citizen, and I'm committed to that. I did vote for the Arizona resolution that was passed, and I think the final 2 or 3 weeks of session. And I look for some more bills to come back next year, and I will look at them key and make sure that they're fair, but make sure they do get tough on illegal immigration, and they're not a political piece that just sounds good but does nothing. We pass so many bills in Nashville that sound good, but they actually don't do anything. So make sure when we talk about illegal immigration, we pass bills that are effective and help the taxpayer and citizens of this state.
thank you.
Now, I do agree that they pass a lot of bills in the legislature. And almost every bill that's passed either takes money out of your pocket or it puts new restrictions on you or your business. I am of the mind that we need not pass so many bills, not pass so much frivolous legislation. And I hate to mention about a fish in a fish tank, but you know, in a year of this economy, we need to get more than a decorative fish in a fish tank. I'm sure that owner appreciated it, but it took time and money, and we've had too much frivolous legislation in the legislature as we speak. I would like to ask, did you say you would like to call them undocumented citizens?
Shoot.
Again, I'll follow up in saying that, remember, we're all striving to get to heaven. We're all hoping to be together. But if you're going to live in this country, you have to follow the laws of the land. And I'll enforce and get tough on illegal immigration, but we are going to have the help of the federal government. But remember, we're all God's children.